most people are over-consuming carbohydrates throughout the day, so they never get to the point where they're using stored carbohydrates because they're over-consuming. And most people don't even realize what are the sources of carbohydrates that I have. Maybe people listening to this podcast are a little bit more educated, but your members have no idea.
Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez.
And me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
As both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better
boxes.
Welcome to
The best hour of your day.
We're here with Nicole Aucoin at CrossFit MOB.
Do you know what it stands for? Is it mind over body?
Yep.
Okay.
It has it on the sign outside.
We are in Denver, Colorado. Oh, is this technically Denver?
I think it's a suburb of Denver,
Yeah,
but
okay.
close enough.
Affiliate
And
Summit.
this is the episode all about nutrition.
The base of the theoretical hierarchy for the development of an athlete.
So let's start there, right? The theoretical hierarchy, 2002, Coach Glassman writes the article, the foundation is nutrition. Agree or disagree?
Is that a joke? 100% agree.
I was hoping you would disagree.
Well, Fern, we were talking about the hierarchy of member sales to impact,
Yeah.
et cetera. And he's like, people don't understand how a pyramid works. Right? So
I would agree if you look at every CrossFit gym and the
Thank you.
nutrition is not prioritized more than anything else.
do you think that's because not all owners have the education, the knowledge, the understanding, the ability to coach it, lead by example? What do you think it is?
I think
Yes.
it's a combination of all the things. I think we probably assume that people know more than they do, and they know what to do. And fundamentally, we all know eating more whole foods is better for us, and eating less sugar is better for us. But in reality, doing that and staying consistent with that is harder than we assume for most people. So I think that's a piece of it. The second piece is you open up a gym because you're passionate about fitness, not necessarily passionate about helping people with nutrition, even though we know it's important. So you are biased towards what you are passionate about, which is teaching the fitness side. And most gym owners are overwhelmed with doing a million different things. They don't have the time capacity to put it forward.
So let's take this episode and educate.
Okay.
Let's go through the level 1 nutrition lecture. And a couple of things. One,
From the CrossFit level 1.
CrossFit level 1.
I'm familiar.
Fern and I are familiar. You may...
When did you take your level 1?
2010, I think 11.
When did you take your level 2?
2015.
When did you take your level 3? What credential do you have right now? Level 2?
Yeah.
Do you keep renewing your level 2?
Right now it's renewed and it expires next year, which I need to get my level 3, but yeah.
But
I
what?
Yeah.
But the knowledge.
The knowledge. I probably should get in the knowledge app.
There we
You
go.
guys should-
There we go.
I think it's
Hard pitch is
important.
good.
I think you're involved in CrossFit affiliates would be beneficial, but
I think it would be easy for you, to be honest with you.
agreed.
Okay.
You're smart and you know it.
And how long have you had
Yeah.
your affiliate?
Since 2016.
And you guys you're technically Fort Lauderdale or right outside of Fort Lauderdale?
Right outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Deerfield Beach.
Okay.
So just north.
Yep. Okay.
So we kick off the nutrition lecture. We talk about the hierarchy. And what I was going to say is it's been a minute since you've seen it.
Yep.
And I also want to throw this out there. You don't have to agree with everything in there. This isn't about like dogmatic or dogmatism. Like something you agree with or don't agree with, let us know.
Okay.
Right? Fair?
Fair. Let's do it.
So we kick off with the theoretical hierarchy like we did. Nutrition is clearly the foundation. And from there, we talk a lot about hormonal response. Glucagon, insulin. Do you remember this part of it? Or yeah, you obviously know about it whether you remember it or not.
It's changed quite a bit since I went.
It's actually changed substantially. If you took it in 2010, it's changed
It was all
a lot.
zone
Yeah.
back when I did it.
So it's God, maybe 10% zone.
The zone, I would say less.
Yeah, maybe even less.
I
I
mean,
would
the
be
zone
very
is
generous
lumped
with
in
10%.
with any practice, macros, keto, fasting, paleo.
Yeah, the zone
et
gets
cetera.
placed into the idea of
Quantity.
Well, it gets wrapped into the overall idea of like, hey, all of these are accomplishing two things, which is we're trying to maximize insulin sensitivity and minimize insulin production. essentially. And you can do that a lot of different ways. I don't think there is a way to do it. Like you can, like, because we talk about paleo, keto, intermittent fasting, RP, macros, zone. What else is that?
That was it.
Yeah, insert whatever you want, but they're all kind of doing that in a slightly different way.
I think when you look at the top 10 causes of leading death in the United States, 9 out of the 10 are caused or worsened by elevated blood sugar. So the inability to regulate your blood sugar, eating too much carbohydrates, sedentary lifestyle, is leading more people to sickness. So I think it's good that it starts with that. People don't understand how you eat, exactly how it affects your blood sugar. Have you guys ever done continuous glucose monitoring?
I have not. I've done.
I want to do it.
I think I did it for a month.
You had the thing and everything?
Yeah, my because I told you I have a functional medicine doctor. And, and I had, I guess, like, not chronically high blood glucose, but I was always like 105, 110, like even fasting. She's like, I just want to take a look and see what's going on. She's like, you're clearly not sick, but she's like, this is like high for fasting glucose.
So we created a partnership with a company called Signos, and our dietitians can see in real time our nutrition clients' blood sugar if they decide to go down that path. And I've done it for 3 months. It's super interesting to see.
I think last time we were together, you were doing it.
Yeah, it's super interesting to see. Okay, when I pair protein and carbohydrates, my blood sugar doesn't go up as much. When you go for a walk, this is across the board, when you go for a walk after you eat, it significantly lowers your blood sugar. And these simple strategies can help so many people prevent and sometimes reverse chronic disease by just understanding, okay, how's my body responding on the inside, going back to hormones, right? When you eat
how does it work?
How does it work? And what happens in my body is going to be different than what happens in your body. Every response is relative. You might be more sensitive to sugar or glucose than I am.
Or just more stressed out.
And that, cortisol levels significantly play a role.
Very high cortisol, this guy. Extreme.
He looks so stressed right now.
That's just his face. But,
kidding.
you know, and to the zone, a lot of people are like, why would I ever do the zone? The lessons I learned from the zone, I apply to this day for what you were saying. I track macros, but I always try to pair protein, carbs, and fat for that reason. Because I'm like, all these carbs at once, even if it's within my allotment for the day, is going to have an insulin response. Where I was reading somewhere where if you eat your protein and fat first and then have your carbs, it reduces that response. Is that true?
Yep. I saw it. When I ate my vegetables and protein first, then had carbohydrates, my blood sugar would go up slower and less of a spike than if I had the carbs first.
So let's take a step back. We talk about the insulin response to glucagon. Insulin, periods where we eat, specifically carbohydrates, glucagon, both released from the pancreas in periods of less carbohydrates or fasting. And the Nicole Carroll used to say we want this teeter-totter, where ideally they're being released equally.
Most people are over-consuming carbohydrates throughout the day, so they never get to the point where they're using stored carbohydrates because they're over-consuming. And most people don't even realize what are the sources of carbohydrates that I have. Maybe people listening to this podcast are a little bit more educated, but your members have no idea what they're eating.
Dude, this is, so I express this exact point when I give the nutrition lecture. This is years ago. I was working with Maggie Tencher. We were doing a level 1 in Richmond, and I finished the lecture, and there's a gentleman sitting in the front row, and he's like, hey, I have a question. So every morning, my wife makes me breakfast, and it's like eggs and avocado and the toast, and we were just talking about refining. He's like, so, I mean, she just makes the toast. Like, what should I do with the toast? And I was like,
throw it in the garbage.
That's what I said. So I said, don't eat it. And to your point, he was like, what do you mean don't eat it? And I was like, don't eat it. And at this point, I was going to make a joke, and then I realized that this guy, he was being very serious, and he had never considered just not eating said toast. And to your point, the things that we think people know, or the assumptions that we make, having been doing this for so long, are really, really inaccurate. Like, they're very inaccurate. Like, people are like, what's a protein? And they're like, pasta. And like, they both start with P. It's got to be a protein.
Broccoli.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And they're like, no. And they literally don't know.
And even when it comes down to protein, okay, what are lean sources of protein, medium sources, high fat sources of protein, and how does that impact your overall calories for the day?
What are animal proteins versus plant-based proteins? I'm like, well, I'm getting these proteins, and I'm like, not the same. Both, yes, they fall in the protein category, but not the same.
Or you watched a movie and then you decided you wanted to be vegan or vegetarian, and then you have all these processed meats that you're consuming instead of, whole food meats. So it's
Beyond Meat is sponsoring the show, everybody.
Right.
Our new sponsor.
So I think we just need to step back and don't assume that our clients know all the things, because they probably don't, and start with the basics. I mean, it's always good to repeat things, and likely, I think the other piece of it too is if we don't get our members involved in the conversation, then it could go in one ear and out the other. So for instance, hey, what source of protein did you have for breakfast today? And let a couple of people answer, and then you might realize, oh, this isn't a source of protein. They didn't have breakfast. Like, what are the things going on? You can use this as an educational moment.
Orange juice and a banana. Is that
right.
good?
Yeah.
And
they're both
oatmeal.
Yeah, they're both fruits.
Juice is such a great example. People
I'm joking, but not joking.
People think
you had that for breakfast. I saw you.
Right. People think that juice is a really good option instead of the whole fruit. Like, I've had parents come to me where their kids have high triglycerides. We have a pediatrician that refers all of his fatty liver patients to us that happen to be kids. Yep, with fatty livers, because they overconsume carbohydrates and they're sedentary. And then when I start asking the parents, okay, tell me a little bit about what, your guys are eating, the mom would be like, well, I packed 3 juices for her for lunch. I'm like, oh, tell me a little bit more. What made
3 juices. This 6-year-old's having more carbs at lunch than I'm having.
Right. So it's like,
week.
okay, tell me a little bit. Well, it says good source of vitamin C on it. Like, that's the level of education that you are working with in your membership. So,
well, I think it's let's give the charitable assumption here. It's I don't say misinformation, but people have been given bad information or inaccurate information, and they think they're doing a good thing. So I don't even think it qualifies as ignorance. It's just like they were told something by an authority, and they're like, well, this must be true, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this.
When you look at food and beverage companies, there's a few companies that own everything, right? Like
Kellogg's.
Pepsi owns a ton of stuff, and a lot of it is marketed. This is, there's been a lot of riff with dietitians and, where they get their money from. You go to a dietitian conference and 90% of the companies are these
sponsored by Coca-Cola.
Beverage companies. I'm like, okay, there's something fundamentally wrong here, right? Like, we're trying to teach people to eat healthy and whole foods, and then we've got these food and beverage companies that are making food products, throwing money.
I want to make this.
We're off the beaten path.
But
we're kind
all
of
valid.
So let's treat this kind of like the level 1, that lecture, which is like we're highlighting the problem.
Yep.
Okay. So
We're over-consuming carbohydrates
Right.
because they're cheap, they're in our face, they
Right.
happen to taste great.
now from an affiliate owner standpoint, I want to make this very practical for the affiliate owner. So number 1, use this podcast and send it to your members, right? Just as how do we educate them? We just start giving them information, number 1.
Yep.
So send this to them. It'll be educational. What are some things that you guys do, meaning like you and Jason at the affiliate, to start to educate people before maybe you ever present and ask? And I don't know exactly how you do it there, but you might ask right out of the gate. I don't know.
Yeah, so a couple things is we talk about nutrition all the time on our emails, like emails that go out to our entire list. On our social media, we share healthy recipes. We share simple tips on a regular basis. Our dietitian team does on social media. In our on-ramp program, a part of the programming is nutrition during those 4 on-ramp sessions. So day 1, we talk about the plate method. What does that look like? Day 2, what are you eating before and after your workout? Day 3, what does hydration look like? Are you drinking water? Are you drinking sugar-sweetened beverages?
I want to highlight what you guys are being very simple.
It's so simple.
But you're not talking about macros or
No.
weighing and measuring.
No.
You're like, hey, this is your
Here's
plate.
the plate.
30% of that should be this. This should be the other. Like, drink
Which
water.
is immediately eye-opening to most people.
Correct.
We give them 3 compartment containers. So, like, here's a visual.
So everybody that joins your gym gets
It's a container.
an actual container.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I would say, like, all right.
Is it
tell
branded?
Me, no, but it should be.
You're blowing it.
I know.
Best
then
hour.
Yeah, put best hour on there.
I would
We'll give
say,
you 10 cents for every one of those.
10 cents.
Yep.
And then we say, all right, so if you're looking at this, what would your plate normally look like? Like, what portion? Oh, half of it is carbohydrates normally. All right, we want to switch that and have half of it be vegetables and then protein and then our starch for a quarter of it. Then they get this visual, and then the plate's with them all the time. Okay, now I can start doing this at home and making some small changes. For most of our members, they'll sign up for a nutrition, fitness, accountability program right off the gate. So I'm not
Right out of
selling
the gate,
them.
day one.
Yeah, 12-week transformation program. But the way we talk about how we help people is not just through CrossFit, it's through nutrition, CrossFit, and accountability.
It's
So
lifestyle,
they come to us expecting that to be a part of the conversation.
So most of the clients that show up to that initial consult are expecting this.
Yep.
Okay.
They're expecting it,
They're
or
like,
they're doing
you're going to
nutrition,
sell me all three.
or they're
Okay.
doing nutrition only.
Got it. Okay.
So that's the majority of our people. But if a gym's not set up that way, I would be posting simple tips, post healthy recipes, share those like on a board in your gym, like, hey, here's the recipe of the month.
And if you want recipes, you can go to
healthystepsnutrition.com.
Here, and I mean, what we're also not highlighting is part of this is like, do you have a social media plan? What's your newsletter plan, right? All these little things have to be
But
in
even
place.
if you didn't, the important part is that conversation is had on day
daily.
one.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
day one and often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've talked about this a lot with Ryan, our client, classified Ryan. It's like everybody wants to do strength and Metcon. No one wants to do Metcon and nutrition.
Yeah, and if the truth is you need to, as an affiliate owner, address the other 23 hours of the day because those are impacting that hour. And if your goal is to help someone become the best and healthiest version of themselves, it's not just about the hour here. Yes, this is
It's
important.
very little to do with it, actually. I mean, do the math. It's 4% of it.
Right. So why are we not addressing the...
Check that.
Well done.
Good job. Why are we not addressing the other 23 hours of the day? And the cool thing is when you have a program that addresses not only nutrition, because the truth is nutrition is not really about nutrition. It's about
behavior.
How are you managing stress and not going to food? How is your support system? Are you making the healthy choice the easy choice? And
That's a big one.
I think people underestimate
Speak more on that.
the importance of environment. So if I have cookies on my counter and I walk by them, there's only so many times I'm going to walk by them and not start grabbing a cookie.
I
if
left
it's
that
not
cookie
there-
that I got at the hotel on the desk on purpose.
Yeah, so you
I
wouldn't
won't eat it.
Exactly.
No, in my room. I'll be like, no.
You're just developing discipline in that moment.
I think to some degree you have to practice it.
It's in your pocket.
But when our members are already making so many different choices around their lifestyle, we want to try to make it as easy for them to stay on
Agree
track.
with you.
Well,
100%.
it's what we talked about with Adam Fuller, right? Like, it's routine. So
Yes.
if I put this drink out here with these 3 scoops that I put in it every morning, it's far more likely I'm going to do it.
Yep.
And by that same rationale, if I leave a cookie out there, it's far more likely. So
Yeah.
I've coached plenty of nutrition, and whether it's kids or not, it's like, hey, don't keep those cookies out. Or how about go put them in the attic?
Yeah.
Like if you're not with kids,
Oh,
right? But
shit, just throw them away.
or don't have them to begin with. But yeah, like if you're gonna eat cookies, I highly recommend you don't bring them in the house.
Yeah.
And
Go
you
out.
have to not only decide to go out, like you have to physically get in your car, turn
Yeah.
the ignition, drive to the store, pay
Yep.
for it. It's like
I give you a very simple example of the environment. My in-laws.
let's
When
hear
we
it.
go to their house, dessert every meal.
Entenmann's.
No. Dessert every meal. When the kids go to their house, they expect dessert and they want dessert. And just brought this up recently. When we go to their house, they don't eat.
Because they know desserts.
'Cause they know
they're
dessert's coming at
hey,
the
I
end.
gotta save some room, guys.
But that's the opposite at our house because dessert is not coming at our house. Like, it's not happening. I'm like, eat that or starve. You have one of two options. But you're not getting dessert here. So they eat at home. And we're like, why won't they eat dinner? I'm like, well, because they're waiting for the cake
Yeah.
or the cupcakes or the souffle that you, like, whatever it is. that
You're
you
making souffles over there?
I'm not.
fancy.
No, and we had the same thing with Madison, right? Like, she's drinking a lot of milk at night, and we're like, hey, she's not eating dinner. So we recently got rid of the milk. And all of a sudden, she started eating more.
It's like, I'm hungry.
Yeah, she's like, well, there's no food later. And it was like one night of like, no, scream all you want. And then she was, all right, I'll eat tomorrow.
But just to highlight some examples of behavior and like where people could try to identify those examples in their life. Or like, oh, when we come home, this is the first thing that I do is I walk in here and I pull these chips out because they're readily available. Mm-hmm. Could that be beef jerky or something like that?
So, yeah, if you're talking about environment, you want to decrease the friction of easy choices. So what does that look like? Prepping some vegetables and maybe pre-cutting them so they're easy to grab. Maybe some lean protein sources. Maybe I have a cottage cheese cookie dough recipe, and I absolutely love it. It's my new favorite recipe. So good.
That sounds gross.
I hate cottage cheese, and it is so good.
You know, so it doesn't taste. It tastes like cookie dough.
Yes, it does not taste like
What
cottage
else
cheese.
is in the cottage cheese? Cookie dough.
No, it is so good.
Oh, there's no cookie dough.
No.
But it winds
you're
up
lying.
tasting like cookie dough.
Yes.
So you're okay.
It's cottage dough.
It is so good though. But I know that's a balanced snack. There's no added sugar in there. It's so good, and that's easy for me to have. If it's already prepped in a little mason jar, I can grab it and eat it. Versus if it's not prepped, then what am I grabbing instead? And
Just out of curiosity, what's the macro breakdown of that?
it's balanced. Really close to
40, 30, 30.
Carbs, 30% protein, 30%
A couple
fat.
of small things I started doing similar to that would be, so I have like 500 to 600 grams of potatoes every day.
That's a lot of potatoes.
It is a lot of potatoes, and I found like I'm sitting there chopping sweet potatoes, and then I went to Whole Foods.
That's so many.
I try to get about 90% of my carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables, and I eat 405 grams of carbs
A day.
a day.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. I got there
But
slowly.
of Whole Foods.
Almost only
Yeah.
the only other carbs I typically have, I have 2 slices of gluten-free bread most days,
Okay.
and then secondary carbs. But I went to Whole Foods. I was like, oh, they've got these bags of little potatoes that are 454 grams. I don't know why everything's 454. Do you know why?
Nope.
Is there a reason for that? And I was like, oh, I can just throw these in the air fryer
Yeah.
without
simple.
having to, like, simple things. Or I was making oatmeal, but I'll buy like mush just to have in the fridge in case I don't have time, because if I don't have that, it spirals.
Then what are you gonna have?
Right, something else spirals. So I guess I do have some oatmeal as well. But little smart decision. And I do think part of that, like I said earlier about the zone, that just comes with years of experience too, like knowledge and knowing, well, if I don't have this, this is a good substitute, and this is a healthier option. Just like you bring up with your cookie dough, it's like knowing what are good.
But I think also knowing why. Okay, why do I want to have something that's balanced? I know it's going to help me stay full longer. I'm going to stay more satisfied. I'm not going to have this energy spike and crash when I just have carbohydrates. So if you understand why you're doing something, you're more likely to do it. And when you're coaching clients with nutrition, you have to help them with every single one of those steps. Okay, so if we're talking about you're focusing on a balanced snack, what does that look like for you? When are you going to get it? When are you going to prep it? How are you going to remember to do it? Every single step has to be mapped out, or they're not going to do it, because the truth is barriers are going to come up. They're going to forget, or if you don't plan it out with them, they're not going to have the stuff, and then they're just going to go back to what's convenient and easy and comfortable for them. So if you're trying to get them to make meaningful change, you need to map out every single step with clients so they know exactly what they need to do to be successful, and they do it.
Yeah, nutrition is just, there's so much to it. And
Yeah.
Roz, my wife,
There is, but there isn't. And this is like the weird,
you're right. It's
overwhelming
it's
piece that
simple.
people don't do it. It's because
Because-
like it's so complex.
It's simple, not easy.
Correct.
I'm not-
That's the hard part, right? Because the simple part is like, and we even talked about this in the level 2. Most people know within reason what they should do. Like if you put a plate in front of them, like, is that good for you? They're gonna be like, no.
Right, no one's
Right.
looking at cookies and be like, that's the good choice.
Yes.
But they might not know, like, hey, that
The hard
juice
part
is bad.
The hard part is doing it though, right? So the behavior or the environment factor is where all of the friction happens
Well,
in that piece.
Let's talk quality. Eat meats, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. And we talk, what do you disagree with? The no sugar?
I think it should be no added sugar, no minimal added sugar. Start there. I know that's what he meant when he said it, but
Yeah, and I think-
but yes, I agree. Like if you think about healthy steps nutrition, what are the core principles we have? That's the first one.
Well, so you're suggesting like bananas sugar, but that's okay.
Yeah,
No.
have
That's
fruit.
what she suggests. When you
yeah.
say no sugar, that can be misinterpreted to no fruit.
Yeah, well, but then you're saying have fruit at the beginning. So I think minimal added sugar is where we
Added.
should.
And I also think a couple of things. Like you can read it. It's like at some point it's like, hey, this is semantics.
Yeah,
Right.
keep it
and,
simple.
And also, it's no different than social media. It's like if I gotta get this out there quick, I've gotta get attention.
Yeah,
So understood. But like recently, I think not recently. It's probably a year ago now. HQ put out fitness in 100 words on their social media.
Oh yeah.
And people were losing their minds over it. And it's
been
like,
around for forever.
well, first of all, yeah, this wasn't new. But secondly, it's like I think the way I heard it put best is like, hey, if your unhealthy relatives did this, they would be healthier. So why are we arguing? Like, stop arguing about the no sugar thing and just understand. Right, we're trying to keep it simple.
Well, here's the big takeaway with the no sugar thing. I think is like a more productive conversation is people like it. Like that's the conversation. Is like, hey, educate them. Be like, they're either gonna buy into that or they're not. But we can all agree that it should be less. So just giving them some education. I'm like, listen, I don't have time to argue with you about sugar. Just eat less of it, right? Like you don't have to agree with me, but it's still true.
Qualify like Nicole's saying, like, hey, don't add any sugar.
And, I used to travel around to CrossFit gyms like 2010 to 2012. I would travel around and do these nutrition seminars for whatever CrossFit gym would let me come and talk in Florida. And guaranteed every single time someone would ask me, what about sugar in the raw? What about agave? What about all these different forms of sugar? Like, hey, it still increases your blood sugar just because it's a healthier version. If it's brown instead of white, it's still going to have that. You're still going to have that insulin.
I always joke. The actual question is, I like this thing. Can I eat it? I'm like, I'm not debating that you like it. That's not the point.
Yeah.
And by the way, you can eat it. Just know the ramifications. And, it's also just becomes what you want to accept in your life.
So whole foods first, absolutely. Then we talk about balance, pairing protein, carbs, and fats together, which is really important to help stabilize blood sugar. Most people don't get enough protein throughout the day. They don't.
So we talk about meats, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some for a little starch, no sugar. Eat meat is the first thing, which again, people were getting worked up about, but it was the first word there. Second, but eat meat.
Yeah, and most people do not get enough protein throughout the day. So if you add protein with every meal and snack, your blood sugar is going to stay more stable, you're going to stay full longer, and the likelihood of you getting towards a protein goal or closer to it is much more likely than not having protein with every meal.
I would, if someone said, like, what percentage of people do not get enough protein, I would...
90.
I was going to say 90, but I actually think 90's in the CrossFit space. So I'm like, if you think everyone, it's like 98%. Would you agree with
Yeah, it's a ton of... Most people do not get...
90% in CrossFit who understand a little bit of this.
It's always interesting to me when people have their protein shake right after their workout.
It's just water.
And they're like, all right, I'm having my protein shake. I'm going to build the muscle. I'm like, well, what else are you having throughout the day? Because your protein
30 grams is not enough.
If you don't get enough protein throughout the day, your body cannot build the muscle just because you got a protein shake after your workout. So helping people...
But it was post-workout.
Right, which is great. I'm glad you got it in.
That's great.
But
with my gummy bears.
Don't get me started.
So, meats, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Before we even dig deeper into quantity, let's continue to just refine, like, what are some other ways you would just describe that? So, for example, quality foods.
Yep.
Shop at the perimeter of the grocery store. Like you said earlier, whole foods. What else would you use to help people understand those better?
So you've got whole foods, and then you have processed foods, and then you have ultra-processed foods. And
what's the difference between the latter two?
So, if they're adding like one ingredient, right? Ultra means like, okay, we've added
extra
sugar, fat, salt, like all of these things in there. So if you take an apple, okay?
Yep.
And then
applesauce. That's just processed.
Depending on if there's ultra an apple pie.
Sugar.
Ooh, okay.
So we like ultra processed. That's the good one.
It is very good.
Maybe you do with your...
It tastes very good.
You use some cottage cheese, and you're good.
Yeah.
You take your potatoes, right? Okay, we have...
Sweet potato fries.
And then you've got potato chips and all these other things that could be...
Wasn't it funny over the years to see sweet potato fries become like, these are good for you? Right?
Not 4 pounds of them, but
no, but I mean, that's whatever, like...
Are you frying them or are you putting them in the air fryer? Most people, an air fryer is a great tool to
That's how I make my potatoes every night. But nothing else in there.
There you go.
Bing, bing, 390, 20 minutes, you're good to go.
Super delicious. And then they get the little crunch. So if you help people understand, okay, look at the food that you're eating. So people always ask me, do I need to track my food? I don't have people track every single thing.
No.
I don't think it's necessary. Number one, you're not measuring out what you're putting in MyFitnessPal or whatever thing you're doing. Most people don't. If you look at the accuracy rate of people tracking, it's like 18% or less. of
You
people
mean they're
who
mostly
actually check.
estimating?
They're putting one portion in, and they're not measuring out. It's probably 3 portions of whatever
no,
they
I'm
had.
like
Maybe you.
a lunatic.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, you
you're
have
the exception
no
to
problem.
the rule.
Yeah.
But I like people taking photos. So our coaches will have people take photos of their food and put it into the Healthy Steps Nutrition app, and then we can easily see, okay, does this look balanced? And then we can ask people, all right, how did you prepare it? Did you add anything else? And give them some great guidance without adding a ton of pressure of logging every single thing. It's a simple step.
Right. It's a much faster, less daunting exercise.
You're decreasing friction, but able to provide feedback more consistently.
So,
And before we go, like, we should talk about the continuum,
sick, well, fit.
sick, well, fit. Really, when we talk about this quality food, if we look at the sick, well, fit continuum, the three of us would agree the population's living close to sick.
Oh, 100%.
And what we're
Probably
talking,
pegged at it at this point.
and what we're talking here is how do we start to move that needle from sick to well? And in our lecture, it's by eating
Whole foods.
Whole
whole
foods.
foods.
Yeah.
Moving daily, and sleeping.
Of any type.
Yeah, just
Yeah, yeah.
move.
Walk.
Obviously, like I found CrossFit. I love CrossFit. That's our number one thing that we want people. But if you're only coming to the gym 3 days a week, what else are you doing? Are you sitting all day, every day?
walk.
Go for a walk after meals. That's a great way to lower your blood
How
sugar.
long? 10 minutes?
15 minutes. We try to get
20
people to do
minutes.
15
An hour.
minutes twice a week or twice a day.
2 hours.
So after 2 meals.
Listen, I think outside of just moving a little bit, I think there's a tremendous amount of benefit emotionally and psychologically. I do this. I try to do this at least 3 days a week if I can make it happen. Just go for a 20-minute walk.
Do you do that 3 days a week?
I do. And
No devices?
so this is where I'm changing it now, which is like I'll typically listen to something because I just can't turn my brain off. But I'm like, I should just go for a walk with no devices.
Yeah, but when you listen to something, you're literally not turning your brain off versus...
But the point is, that for me, it wasn't about turning my brain off. It was about going outside.
you do
I need
turn
to-
your brain off a lot.
I do. I never turn it off.
Nature therapy is really good for
It's
your
a real
mental
thing.
health.
And my point with
that's
this
what
is
I have, like,
my point with
ideas.
this. I have a mile thing, and I walk the mile and I walk back, and I'm like 15, 17 minutes at just like a brisk walk for a mile, and then I'm back in. I'm like, okay, I got minimal
It's
vitamin D.
refreshing.
I'm just
Yeah.
outside or whatever. So I think but it's not just for moving purposes. I think it's just like detach from electronics and those things, and just go outside and just be with your thoughts for 15 minutes, and then come
That's
back
a
in.
lost... We could have a whole podcast on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of my goals was to meditate more, and I was like, this is my meditation, right? Meditation is just disconnect
Right.
for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I do the same. I mean, take Rocky, my Frenchie. We have it's like a mile and a half, and I'm like, hey, babe, I'm not taking my phone, so I'll be outside.
What do you think is a good frequency? So people are watching this are like, all right, how do I don't have time to write 47,000 email sequences and do 78 workshops. Like what's an appropriate threshold for education that you guys recommend inside? I mean, obviously you guys have the done for you version inside of HSN. So if you guys are interested, reach out. But if somebody's just listening to this, like what's a good cadence?
Your members are going to make nutrition a priority if you make nutrition a priority. So I don't think it has to be formal workshops and everything. I think it is training your staff so that when the moments and opportunities arise, they can easily help connect the dots. If you tell me, man, that workout was way harder than it should have been, my first question to you is, what'd you eat today? How'd you sleep last night? And the more that inconsistent our staff is doing that with all the little conversations, it adds up for people to be like, oh man, because there's a difference between telling someone and then them saying something and you giving them a question back of
Right.
like, well, have you thought about how your eating is impacting your energy levels?
Right.
The other thing would be share healthy recipes. I mean, sharing them at least once a month is something that you can easily do. Hopefully you're making recipes as a gym owner or a coach. If you need some, go to healthystepsnutrition.com and start making them and sharing them. People love healthy recipes, and the more you can show them that it's not complicated and here's some simple things to get started, it gives them confidence that they can do it. And then when they're ready, they'll come to you for help. Forcing nutrition coaching on someone who's not ready is only going to cause friction between the coach because they're not ready to do it and they're not going to do
not
it.
gonna
It's
work.
not going to work at all. But you want to make sure that when they're ready, they know and have the resources and tools available to them, and that they know how important it is to help them reach the results that they're looking for. When people are coming to your gym because they think that's going to help them lose the weight, get in shape, when in reality, if they had the other 23 hours of the day plus your gym, and accountability to stay on track, they're going to see better results.
What do you think is one or two of the most useful tools every affiliate owner should have in their box for the purposes of nutrition?
Tracking biometrics. So being able to, we have an InBody. It took me a year to convince my husband that we needed to invest that much money in a machine.
We've had one forever, dude.
And so all of our nutrition clients get InBody scans once a month. That is objective data that shows all of your hard work.
How do you make sure that happens?
They come in person once a month, and we do it when they're in the in-person visits.
We set the appointment and they show up.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, so I'll give I'll give what we do. So once a month, it's a data day, meaning like we pull that dusty ass InBody scanner out of the office.
It shouldn't be dusty.
Well, my point is that I'm speaking to all these people who are not using it correctly. Pull it out of the office and put it in the gym. And you're like, well, somebody doesn't want to get on there and do that. I'm like, that's great. They'll ask you tomorrow when you put it back in the office. But pull it out.
Just remind them it's there.
Correct, right? And put people on it so you can start to have those conversations to show them the information. And we don't even charge for it. We used to charge for it. I'm just like, whatever, man, I don't care. Get on there, let's see what it says, and then I can help you, and we can have a follow-on conversation about that. And we see regularly people always follow up like, I didn't get to it yesterday. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. You want to have it today? We'll get the scan today, and we'll have the conversation about that today.
So tracking biometrics, I think, is one thing that you should do on a regular basis. We do InBody scans for our nutrition clients monthly, and then every gym member, we do goal-setting sessions twice a year, try to get them to do goal-setting sessions twice a year, and we'll bribe them with, an InBody scan and give it to them.
Cottage cheese cookie.
Oh my gosh, so good. Yeah. 10 out of 10, that recipe. Okay, and then the other thing I would say is the new people coming in, integrate nutrition into whatever your foundations program is or your on-ramp program.
Sure.
So that
we've been teaching that forever.
We can have a solid foundation of people just understanding, even if they don't sign up for nutrition right away, okay, here's a base. Here's what a protein, carb, and fat is. And it doesn't need to be these full-on lectures. It could be 2-minute videos to give them bite-sized information that they can take action on right away. And then they start doing that one thing, and then you add the next thing to the plate. If you don't have a foundations program or an on-ramp program where you have one-on-one, build an email sequence that has 4 emails that go out to them.
They get when they join.
That's not a giant packet. People aren't going to read a giant packet. Give them bite-sized information that they can take action on and do that one thing and then add the next thing.
Let's go to quantity.
Okay.
Right. So we've moved the needle from sick to well. In order to go from well to fit, this is where we talk about the same precision and accuracy you need for your training. Right. We talk about logbooks. You need to bring to your nutrition. Keep intake to levels that support exercise,
not body fat.
Now we're talking about precision and accuracy, weighing and measuring. And we also, like we alluded to earlier, back in the day was the zone. Check out CrossFit Journal article 21. Right. Nicole Carroll. Classic article. If you're going to take the level 3, you should read it. And I also think, like I've said, there's value in understanding a balanced meal. Now, there's probably more simple ways of doing it, like your plate method.
Ends up being very close to 40-30.
For sure. It's real close.
It's the same.
But there's value in just knowing, okay, this is about a block, this is 3 blocks. So now, when we talk about this, like we said, keto, macros, paleo, fasting, zone, right? All these different methods. When someone's at that point in their journey, what do you do?
I don't think that you necessarily have to track and measure every single thing to get the desired outcome that you want. For most people, we can dial in pieces of the puzzle using the plate method or using simpler strategies than weighing and measuring every single thing. Or maybe you do it for a week just to see where you're at, but it's not a long-term strategy for people to see.
I do think that for most people, I think there's some outlier. He's an outlier, meaning they thrive in that scenario, meaning their personality type is hyper-focused on getting those measures. I do not think it is sustainable for the vast majority of people.
I think that it causes a lot of people to have disordered eating habits because they end up, moving things around or not eating because they know they're going to go out to eat, and then they save up all their calories and macros for the day. And ultimately, can you have a meal and, get off track a little bit and then get back on track the next day? Yes. I don't want someone to feel like the success or failure of their nutrition plan was meeting a number for the day. I want them to feel like, okay, I ate whole foods, I'm feeling good, and then, we go from there. Likely, there's other pieces of the puzzle that need to be dialed in too, like sleep and mindset and other aspects that will move the needle forward. We've had people lose 100 pounds and never track anything.
I've
I
had people
definitely
lose
think that's
30
possible,
to
yeah.
40 pounds doing nothing but just reducing soda intake.
Yep.
We literally never talked about their food.
So let's hypothetically, there's an individual that's very dialed in
Yeah.
to their macros.
He's about 5'4".
Yeah.
5'3", on a good day.
He had 505 grams of carbs.
405 grams of carbs. But let me take a step back. When I started tracking again recently, because I went off, had the 2 kids, all
Yeah.
that stuff, I started at 2,300 calories,
Okay.
approximately.
Sounds about right.
That was about 150 protein, rough numbers, 150 protein, 230 carb, like 80 or so fat. And I didn't do any math. I was just like, I need a baseline. And I over 60 days, slowly lost weight. And then for me, I wake up, it's literally like one day I wake up, I'm hungry. And then I slowly start, so that wasn't overnight that I added 1,000 calories. That was like 10 carb, 5 fat one week, 10 carb, 5 protein another week. And I think I wouldn't be able to get there if I wasn't tracking. Now, I hear you. In the past, I'm like, if I don't do this perfectly, it ruins my day. And when I started this time, I said, I need to be more flexible in this. Like if Roz wants to go out for dinner, I do my best to track, but I'm not upset we're going out to dinner. Now I'll make some better decisions because of it.
So you make better decisions because you're tracking.
For sure.
Okay.
And again, like when I started, it was the classic if it fits your macros mentality, which slowly morphed into 90% whole foods.
Okay.
So like I'll have a little bit of chocolate or something, like not much. But it started with like mac and cheese, pizza, whatever.
That's how most people
This is where I was going to go with this, I think.
Evolved beyond to pretty clean.
I think this is going, we've gotten, even if we are weighing and measuring, I think for most people, the understanding that good enough is good enough. Unless you have very specific fitness or aesthetic goals, good enough is good enough. Like it's that 80%. Like you're probably still getting 80% of the benefit. Like if you miss a day here or if you're a little bit off, I'm like, does it really matter? And this is the old Pat Sherwood thing, is like, it's all going to come out in the wash. Don't worry about it, right?
Well,
like you're moving in the right general direction, right? Was it the what did he say recently? He's just like, I'd prefer to be directionally correct than absolutely correct. Hormozy was like, hey, if we're moving in that general direction, I prefer to be that way than I have to be right here on this dot.
Well, and yeah, in the past I was a lunatic. Like, right, I have my scale over there. And like, for me, it's the Jocko of discipline equals freedom. Example, we recorded a lot of podcasts yesterday, and I had a ton of food to eat when I got home. And I was like actually getting stressed. Like, I got to make these potatoes, cook these eggs. It's going to be late by the time I go to bed. And instead I was like, well, let me just go get a pizza that fits these numbers, right? And I did it. And like, I was like, is this ideal? No. But knowing what I needed to eat gave me more freedom and flexibility.
You'll be fine.
To do it, right. But I still hit my 000 just via pizza versus eggs and potatoes.
Okay.
So what do you think about that?
if we talk about Whole Foods, I don't know that is.
What was a whole pizza?
I bet it was.
It was literally, there was a frozen one because I was like, here, it's 100. Like, I tracked it at Whole Foods, scanned it. I was like, this one fits perfectly.
Because it was a whole food, because it was a whole pizza from Whole Foods. It's now Whole Foods.
No,
Right.
like I'm saying, I'm not defending, like, the potatoes and the other foods would have been better quality. However, by tracking, because that could have deviated me way off.
You sacrificed the quality for the quantity, and that was your decision.
But
for
also
the day.
in an effort to, like, cool, I'll be able to make this one thing. I'll get to bed at a decent time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, all these other things were impacted by that.
You forfeit the battle to win the war. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's do this.
But I want to hear Nicole's.
She disagrees with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you have recommended then?
I would say what's available at Whole Foods, the easy that you could just pick up, that is more Whole Foods based. That's
regardless of the macros in it.
But could you
or
find something
try to get some protein, carbs,
could you
and
have
fat?
something that's more like the plate method? have some vegetables, have some starch, have some protein.
She's saying stay with quality, forget the quantity.
What about
But you could, at the end of the
absolute quantity?
Yeah, I mean,
But what about that's the thing. Like, what about this idea that like I need like nearly 2,000 calories?
Do you need it, or you just that's what you were?
I can tell you this from being so dialed in. When I don't eat enough, I do feel it the next day.
Well, I think that is the downfall of potentially being too dialed in.
and how was your quality of sleep because you ate that amount at night right before you went to bed? Like, you know, your blood sugar was up higher
Definitely
all
felt
night,
that. Definitely
which
felt
is going
that.
to impact the quality
So-
of sleep. So there's give and take for everything.
That's valid. Like, I definitely, when I eat too much at night, like my HRV is lower, 100%.
Because your blood sugar is up for
Yeah,
longer.
and I'll get like, I have an 8 sleep, and I'll get like, did you do this at night? I'm like, no, I just ate a fucking pizza. Like that, I slept like, that's, anyway.
Okay, so
If we wrap this up,
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to do. The goal is that you keep it simple for your clients, that you focus on whole foods, and realize that nutrition coaching is about accountability. It's not just telling someone, hey, you need these macros or you need to follow this. It's, hey, are you doing the things consistently, and how often am I consistently checking in on you? I would recommend as a coach you're checking in weekly to see, are you doing the things, or are you not doing the things, and then navigate the barriers so that you can help them get back on track. Because what ends up happening if you don't have a program that has accountability built in, a month is going to go by and they didn't do the things, and then your program didn't work. When in reality, we could have caught what happened, the barriers, helped them navigate it so they got back on track, got consistent, and the consistency compounds.
And I like that. It's like small wins.
Small wins.
Because Fern, you have seen this. Like, yes, I'm crazy with my tracking, but by doing that, it made me get up earlier, right?
Okay.
Like, and I'm not saying like, oh,
there's secondary and tertiary
right.
effects.
And
to
then
that.
it was like, well, if I'm gonna get up early, I better go to sleep early. And then it was, well, if I'm gonna, go to sleep early, let's stop watching your iPad and read. Like, by getting these small wins,
it becomes healthy user bias now. Like there's other additional behaviors that accompany that.
and it's the identity thing. Who did we speak about that with? Jeremy, maybe,
Yeah.
where it's like, be that person. And it's like the type of person you are.
If you are a healthy person, what would a healthy person do?
What would a healthy person? I love it. Yeah.
So the other thing I would
Anybody eat a
just
pizza
mention,
at 9 o'clock at night?
probably not the best option, is when people can start connecting what they eat and how they feel and how they sleep and their energy levels and their mood, and they start becoming more productive. All of those things are increased reasons why they continue to do those things.
Right.
And then it's not
Self-licking ice cream
about
cone.
the nutrition. It's about, oh man, I feel better. I have more energy. I can play with my kids when I get off work. All of the things are better because I'm prioritizing quality nutrition, because I'm going to bed a little bit earlier. I'm moving regularly. So ultimately, nutrition coaching isn't just about nutrition. It's about all the other things that are impacting nutrition decisions. Keep it simple.
When you say nutrition coaching, you're really, you're saying healthy steps.
Yeah, good. I like it.
So, as a registered dietitian, somebody who
Yep.
specializes in helping other people coach nutrition, and an affiliate owner, 1 to 2 pieces of advice that you would give affiliate owners who are watching this show.
Number 1, align your team with your nutrition philosophy. Everyone needs to be on the same page with where nutrition fits in. It's the foundation of the fitness pyramid, but are you as a team collectively making nutrition a priority? I've seen so many gyms launch a nutrition program, they put all the pressure on just the nutrition coach, and they're only in front of a few people every day.
Right.
Or maybe they're coaching 1 day a week, versus if your entire team is consistently speaking the same language, aligned around the same nutrition philosophy, the message will go exponentially faster and reach more people. The second thing is, don't overestimate the knowledge that people are coming in with. Start with the basics, and don't start talking about the bright and shiny objects. We don't need all the million different supplements and all these different things. Like, start with whole foods first, teach them the basics, and then let them know that you're there to help them when they're ready with a coaching program.
If you guys have questions, reach out to Nicole, HSN. If you're interested in starting a nutrition program at your box, it's quite literally what she does.
Yep.
Reach out. She's happy to set up a call with you. But start educating your members, and remember, it's the base of the pyramid. Learn how pyramids work, everybody.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.